All right, let's just talk for a moment about these attacks. Although these are advanced attacks are really not that much different from basic attacks, except for one thing. They assume that you have the basics down as a foundation. So if we have a good, solid foundation with our basics, anything that we can add on to that, we really call those advanced techniques. The thing with advanced, we want to build our arsenal up. And the way that we generally do that in training is we learn a technique. The first stage is learning. We become familiar with a new technique. We practice it enough. We learn about the elements of the technique. Then we start to take ownership of the technique. Once we're in sparring situation, we're actually grappling and we're pulling it off under grappling combative conditions against resistance. That's the second stage. So first we learn it, then we apply it in grappling. We might do that 20, 30, 40, 50 times, and we start to take ownership of it, which is very different from just learning it or becoming familiar with it. The next step above that is really heading more towards, for lack of a better way of putting it, mastering the technique. And how I differentiate taking ownership to the next level of mastery is really mastering a technique means I've taken ownership, I'm doing the technique, my opponent puts up the basic resistance, he's got counters for that, but I've gone another level and I can counter his counters. That's really learning about the technique. I'm taking it to a whole nother level. I do a technique, he puts the defense for that technique or the counter in place, but I'm ready for that, and his other counter, and his other counter, and I go around and I still pull off the same technique. So I look at it as three basic levels of learning. Learning, familiarising yourself, taking ownership, applying it in sparring, and finally countering the counters that he'll put up to you, which starts you on the road towards mastery of the technique.
I think also agreeing with you, talking about that word mastering a technique or really getting to understand it better. Once you understand the principles behind a technique, you can modify it for the correct situation. You can essentially begin to teach yourself. And I think that's very, very important. Otherwise, you're always going to be limited to simply whatever you saw in a video such as this, or whatever you got from an instructor, whatever you got from a seminar. If you're really going to become good at any system, and it's certainly true in grappling, if you can understand the principles that make specific techniques work, you'll be able to teach yourself, because you'll be able to understand, even if the technique doesn't work, you'll be able to ask yourself what was happening, why didn't it work, and be able to essentially teach yourself. You'll also be able to even come up with your own techniques. The fact is, everyone has your individual traits, you have your individual strengths, certain flexibilities, tightnesses, whatever. You have certain kinds of workout partners, they may have certain skills. So it's really an endless number of combinations, and you're going to need to sort of teach yourself what are the best techniques for you. And the only way to do that is to really understand your strengths and weaknesses, understand techniques when you're applying them, so that you can make small corrections and even take a technique that used to work for you and make it work better. Because you understand what was that one part of that technique that you have a problem with, you could really think and break it down. The last thing I would just add about that too is, with these more advanced chokes and more advanced arm bars and more advanced techniques, you tend to surprise people more. They may not be aware, you may be better than your partner, and you have to have extra caution to understand that, for example, in a cutting arm bar, they may have never even seen that. They may not even know to tap. So you're going to have to be very careful in your control when you apply these techniques to give your partner an opportunity to tap out. Sometimes giving them that opportunity means they escape the technique. And if that happens, that's fine. You know you had it. They may not know you had it. It really doesn't matter, because it's all about training anyways. You don't need to practice making that person tap if you really had it. You need to be assured that you don't injure your partner, so you can continue practicing for the rest of your session and on for years to come. So just be careful about that, and always know that just because you know a technique is coming, they may not know it's coming. Better to make your mistake on the side of going a little light, let them out, no problem, continue the training. It's all about training.